to call the Board of Trustees regular meeting Monday, May 7, 2018 at 6:30 to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of meeting agenda. Any additions or deletions, please?
I make a motion we approve the meeting agenda as written.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Clifford, supported by Trustee Gurley. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of minutes, 4/2/2018, 4/4/2018, 4/18/2018.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from 4/2/2018, 4/4/2018, and 4/18/2018.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Trustee Gurley, supported by Treasurer Honnold. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public announcements. Any public announcements at this time? No public announcements. Public comment. Any public comment at this time? No public comment.
I would like to go back
Go ahead.
to public announcemces. Those of you that know, I see our president in New Haven's in the audience. The New Haven Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 28th, and it proceeds at 10 o'clock from the old community center in New Haven, or the current community center, I should say. Everybody's welcome to attend. If you have an organization that would like to, let me know. I'll give you my phone number after the meeting, and that would be no problem putting you in it. And we do expect, and there'll be letters going out shortly. President Dilbert, if you would kindly speak this year, and Supervisor Trombley, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Number 7, consent agenda. All items listed under this consent agenda are considered routine by the Township Board and will be enacted by one motion. According to established Township meeting rules, there will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the Board or public so requests at or prior to the meeting, in which event the chair of the meeting may remove such items from the consent agenda for discussion and consideration under agenda item number 8 below. Approval of the consent agenda shall be by a majority roll call vote of those present voting.
For invoices this month, we have, the current bills list is $295,230.06. Prepaid invoices is $237,429.74. Total invoices for the period of 4/10 to 5/8, $532,659.80. Make a motion that we approve the bills in the amount of $532,659.80 as presented. Second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Treasurer Honnold. Any other questions, discussion? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Kendall.
Aye.
Connell. Aye. Trombley.
Aye.
Gurley. Aye. Clifford.
Aye.
Motion passes. And one for the consent agenda, please.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Treasurer Honnold. Any questions? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Kendall.
Aye.
Connell.
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Gurley. Aye. Trombley.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Number 8, there were no items removed from consent agenda. Number 9, there is no unfinished business. Number 10, new business. Letter A, Fire Department washer and dryer purchase proposal. Chief Boucher.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
If we could just step aside from that for 1 second, pull up the monthly update, everyone, please, because I really like this information for public knowledge. The chief instructed a 24-hour certified trench rescue operations class, April 21st, 22nd, and 28th. This class included members from the fire departments from Lenox Township, Armada Township, Washington Township, Ray Township, and Richmond Lenox EMS. This was a state certified program. I'm one of the few instructors in the state that can teach this program. And this brings 100% certification of all personnel at Lenox Township Fire Department for trench rescue operations level. And what that really encompasses, if you watch the news, and I know we brought it up last August, when the two gentlemen in Chesterfield Township were buried halfway up to their waist. 6 of us from Lenox Township were down there, 3 of us represented the county tech team, and we saved both of these gentlemen's lives. So this is a real big deal, and being able to involve other departments was a really big success for the whole thing. So just wanted to bring that up, especially for the public.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, and we can move right into the equipment purchases. The washer and dryer were put in the current budget under capital outlay, and I sent you all a letter dated April 30th as well as the quote. And I had budgeted $16,400 for this project, and with the discount from the company, from Universal, we came in at $16,973. That's pretty good considering we got a guesstimate from them nearly a year ago, and with the big discount. Firefighter gear is very special. It's very expensive, as you all know, when we order it, and it has special instructions on how you can wash it and how you can dry it per the NFPA. And one of the things that has changed over the year by NFPA, you no longer can dry our fire gear in a tumble style dryer. It has to be dried. Basically, it's a heated air closet, which will hold 6 sets of gear. So what our goal is, and our plan is to take the old equipment out of Station 1, where 90% of the stuff gets cleaned, and we're going to have that moved up to Station 2, because we're still going to need a washer and dryer up there for everyday operations. And then the new set will go here at Station 1, and we will be fully NFPA compliant. So what happens when you tumble dry it, it reduces its rating, its fireproof rating for the gear. And that's why you can't tumble dry it anymore. So that's a real big deal, especially we don't have the budget to go out and buy new sets of gear every 3 or 4 years. And as I spoke to this item last month, our fire gear is only good for 10 years, no matter if it looks brand new. It's got to be replaced per NFPA. So with that being said, I provided you the quote from Universal. They're the only ones in the state of Michigan that does this. There are very few companies in the entire country that make washer and dryer equipment and air dry cabinets for fire gear. And Universal is the company we used previously when we originally made our purchase. 1996, that's 22 years ago, and that equipment's still running, even though I just replaced a washer belt on a washing machine 2 months ago. So I'll take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Chief?
Yeah, Denny, I noticed it's at 6,973. You budgeted 16,400, and I'm assuming you've got enough in your capital outlay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because we came in, I'm
Most
sorry.
of your equipment comes in under. When I've looked back at my records, you come in under. I'm just making sure that you have that, and
Yes, we do.
But okay.
Any other questions?
I make a motion that we allow the purchase of the washer and dryer equipment requested by the fire department.
Yeah, put them out. Say them out.
I'm sorry, for $16,973 which includes the moving of the equipment from 1 to 2, the current equipment.
I'll second.
All right, motion by trustee Clifford, supported by treasurer Hannell. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Letter B, Fire Department 2015 Fire Code Adoption Request. Chief.
Spoke with the building official, Dennis Lemieux, last week on another issue, and this brought up, especially, we're going to be expecting, I believe, a lot of building going on in the next year or 2 years in our community. The building department has formally adopted the 2015 building code and the Michigan code last April of 2017. And unfortunately, I didn't know anything about that. The companion code, which is the International Fire Code, was not adopted. So we need to be basically in the same code cycle. And I know, Scott, you're familiar with the electrical code. So what I'm looking for is just bring us in line with the building code and formally adopt the 2015 edition of the International Fire Code, and including all its amendments and references.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Ken.
I'll make a motion we adopt the 2015 edition of the International Fire Code with all of its regulations.
Second.
Motion by treasurer Hannell, supported by trustee Gurley. Any other questions? Yes,
Just
Attorney
to be
John.
clear, we're adopting the ordinance that is enclosed, which does exactly what the motion said, but I want to clear for the public and the
Okay.
record that there is an ordinance that was in the agenda packet, and that's what's being adopted. I think it's a roll call vote, because it's an ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have none.
Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Hannell.
Aye.
Gurley.
Aye.
Kendall.
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Steve, do you think, does this need to be published? That we adopted it?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for all the help, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Letter C, DPW Seasonal Personal Hire Request. Superintendent Trombley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Last month, you may remember I came to you asking to advertise for a yearly seasonal position. We did that. We did receive 3 applicants. Regretfully, one of those applicants did withdraw their interest in the position, so that left us with 2. The position is the same as it's always been. Starts about this time. We'd like it to run into November, but sometimes, depending on our applicants going to college and so forth, it's cut short. The 2 applicants we did end up with are both home from college at this time. The position is $10 an hour, no benefits, same duties as it's always been. At this time, I would recommend that we hire Curtis Colts for this position for this year, under the parameters that I've laid out.
Any questions? Discussion?
I have none. Cam, ideally, you would work until about what time? Till the weather changes?
Ideally, if in a perfect world, that position would last to probably just about the beginning of November. But the last couple of years, especially the ones that have gone to college, usually tend to leave late September, mid-August. So we're kind of at their, whatever their needs are, what they can do.
I have no more questions.
Make a motion that we hire Curtis Cults at the rate of $10 per hour for the position of the seasonal DPW.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Candell, supported by Trustee Gurley. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Letter D, Village of New Haven and Lenox Township Joint Fireworks Proposal. We do have Mr. Dilbert here. This is basically the same request as we did last year. Mr. Dilbert?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
The amount stayed the same, Chris, as last year? The amount?
Yeah, I think the village,
Could you just go up to the podium just for 1 second, please? Appreciate it. Sorry, gotta have you on the tape. Put you on the spot. Thank you.
I think last year, village, we budgeted 5,000 and the actual cost came in at about 4,000. And so we don't have a fixed cost yet. We have been in contact with the vendor, but we don't have a definite cost. And at our board meeting in April, we allowed up to 5,000.
Right. I believe that's exactly what we did last year.
And I think the date this year is the 21st of July.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion that we join the Village of New Haven and allow up to $5,000 for the joint fireworks proposal.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. We have a motion by Trustee Clifford, supported by Supervisor Trombley. Any other discussion, questions? Attorney General.
Only thing to mention is that there's a memorandum of understanding that's in your packet. I took a look at that and confirmed it's the same one that we did last time around. And when it's figured out exactly what the amount is, up to 5,000, that would be finalized and signed by the supervisor.
Thank you much.
Yeah, I read through this.
Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Clifford,
Aye.
Trombley,
Aye.
Gurley,
Aye.
Connell,
Nay.
Kendall.
Nay.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Consideration of approval of First Amendment to Marino Scare Fest consent order. Attorney Jeff, if you want to.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yes, this is a matter of dating back to a court case from 2008 involving the Scare Fest on the Marino property. I think the board is pretty familiar with the operation there. It's been going on for many years. Much of the event is covered by a consent order that was entered by the judge in the case back in 2008, 2009, and it's been operating under that consent order all these years. Over the years, the board has received some information regarding temporary camping occurring on the site, and that's come to the board in the past and was found to be acceptable, but it was not made part of the consent order. And in lieu of having that temporary camping come back every year, the thought was update the consent order to contemplate that temporary camping on an annual basis, as long as they do what they've been doing in the past years, which is complying with the state laws and county laws regarding temporary camping. Secondly, there were issues regarding the obscuring of the castle building that is used on the as part of the operations there, and there's been a dispute or questions, issues raised over the years about that, and to reach a resolution of that issue, it was agreed that the fencing would be increased in height another 2 feet with the new fencing in a new location. There's a plan attached to the draft consent order with your materials that shows the new location of the fence, and that would be put into place, and it would help to obscure the castle and resolve that dispute. And then there were also questions about signage that were raised by the property owners over the years, and we realized there really weren't any provisions in the consent order governing signage. So we basically put a status quo provision by way of this amendment would go in the consent order entered with the court, that what they have now basically is what they would have going forward in the future, with the addition of one additional sign over the entrance that they are intending to install, and possibly changing of the directional signage for the parking and how many signs, to get the traffic moving in an orderly fashion, or continue to keep it moving in an orderly fashion. Some flexibility in that regard to manage traffic flow and pedestrian flow on the property in a safe manner. those are the three main things that are addressed in this consent order, and they, I've been reporting to the board on this over the years as the Marinos and I have been trying to work through these issues and come to some sort of reasonable resolution so we don't have to keep coming back and addressing it each year. That's what's in front of you today. It's all laid out in the consent order. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. It's all laid out in the First Amendment of the order. I provided in my letter a draft motion, just to be very clear on exactly what we're doing today. If the board is inclined to approve this, I'd recommend using the motion that I have provided as a sample in my materials. That will make the record clear and provide the necessary authority for me to go ahead and sign this and get it entered with the court, of course, if it's acceptable to the board.
Any questions for Attorney John?
A lot of this was talked about with our planner. You guys this was all part of the negotiations, Steve?
I'm sorry?
Was this brought up with Steve too? It pretty much follows our signing regulations?
Well, no, it is somewhat outside of the signing regulations, but it is consistent with the status quo, what's been going on out there over the years.
Okay.
And most of there's quite a bit of signage that deals with rules and regulations that are at the entry points, costs and fees and charges for people coming in, warning signs to patrons, who may have heart conditions and so forth. We've seen those signs. They have to post them. And so there are a lot of different types of signs that they use that other types of uses in the community don't have. They also have sponsorships from charities and banners put up regarding that, and some advertising through the temporary uses. So the signage, it all clarifies, we didn't even have this before, that the signage had to come down within a certain amount of time. So this is temporary signage. It's up for the period of the use, a short period before and a short period afterward, but it'll specify in the consent order with the judge ordering that it can't be put up earlier than a certain time. It has to be taken down by a certain time, which we didn't have before. It's never been a problem, but you never know going forward, and we got it in there solid. We noticed that it was something that was missing from the consent order.
Okay.
In reading through it, I didn't see any dates mentioned as to when it could go up and when it must go down. I believe it referred to it as commencement of activities during the Halloween activities, but I didn't see any specific dates.
I see August 15th, no?
Up to 30 days prior to the beginning of the opening day of Halloween activities, and 1 week after the last day that Halloween activities are open.
Okay, but we don't have any dates as to what those are.
Right.
Those are governed by other parts of the consent order when they can start putting things up for the.
I do have an issue. I added up all this signage, and we're talking about 218 square feet of signage plus, because some of them didn't identify how many signs they would have. I kind of don't think that we would allow other seasonal companies to do that, and I'm not real fond of doing that at this point.
Is it, Steve, it is, I think you did mention, is it conforming to the consent order, the consent judgment?
Well, the consent order, like I said, did not apply to signage. It didn't have provisions regarding signage in it, and it was realized that the signage that was on the property wasn't governed by the consent order, so we sought to come up with something that would keep the status quo of what's been there all these years, and through the course of discussions or comments made about other activities in the township where some fairly large signage exists and stays up for extended periods of time.
Year round.
So we
Extremely large
there were
signage.
negotiations going back and forth, comparing and whatnot, what was going on in the community. This is a negotiated type resolution of the signage issue that we resolved tentatively bringing it to the board, of course. So, of course, any comments are appreciated, but that's some more details about the substance of the discussion that went back and forth at the table for quite some time. This was one of the more difficult issues to deal with.
And correct me if I'm wrong, boils down to this, we can negotiate this out, or we can spend thousands of dollars and go back to court and let them figure it out. We can have our
Most of
attorney
it-
work
most of
on
it
it for
signs-
another year, because this has taken how long, Attorney Jopik?
At least 2 years, I think.
2 years, so we can continue to play this out over that period of time, or we can negotiate this out and be done with it once and for all. Because this item has been going on since I've been in office, 10 years ago, and has lingered all that time. So we're at the point now where we can finally end this and stop putting money out for things like this and be done with it.
Well, most of his signs are usually hung on the fence on his property and aren't seen by Gratiot anyway, from what I've seen. They're usually on the fences, banners and stuff.
That was part of the discussion, that the vast majority of it is along the Mile Road there and not along Gratiot. There is some signage along Gratiot though as well.
Right.
All did temporary.
Yeah, and if we're looking at total amount of signage too, we're talking at least a quarter mile on one side and a quarter mile on the other side. So over a half a mile of frontage alone, just on frontage locations. So, at square footage, it adds up quickly.
I have no more questions.
What's the board's pleasure?
I move to approve the proposed amendment to the consent order in the case of Marino versus Lenox Township, case number 08-4057-CK, as provided under the Township Attorney's letter dated April 12, 2018, and to authorize the Township Supervisor and Township Attorney to sign the consent order amendment on behalf of the Township and have it entered with the court.
I second.
Motion by Trustee Clifford, supported by Trustee Gurley. Any other questions or discussion? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Clifford,
Aye.
Gurley,
Aye.
Trombley,
Aye.
Connell,
Nay.
Kendall.
Nay.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rezoning request, Lenox Industrial Park LLC, 19-06-13-300-002, vacant from agricultural to commercial general and industrial restricted. Mr. Casson.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
This request, as Supervisor Trombley had indicated, is to rezone property that's currently agriculture to both commercial general and industrial restricted. It's located north of 29 Mile Road on the east side of the street. They're asking, its total site size is 53.3 acres, and they're asking that the frontage be rezoned to commercial general and the rear to be rezoned to industrial restricted. The request is consistent with the goals of the master plan, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Township Board.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Casson?
I have none. I'm familiar with it from the Planning Commission action.
All right.
Make a motion that we approve the rezoning request from agricultural to commercial general and industrial restricted for north of 29 Mile Road, east of Gratiot, parcel ID 190613 300-002, as requested.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Treasurer Honnold. Any other discussion or questions? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Kendall,
Aye.
Connell,
Aye.
Gurley,
Aye.
Trombley,
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next one, letter G. Rezoning request James LaHood, Sarkis, 1906-14400-020, vacant from community commercial to commercial general and industrial restricted. Mr. Gass.
This is an additional parcel located in the west side of Gratiot, north of 29 Mile Road. It's a request to rezone property currently zoned, currently zoned agriculture to commercial general, and the remainder to IR. The front 300 feet will be commercial general. Again, like the last one, it's consistent with the goals of the master plan, and the planning commission recommended approval.
Questions for Mr. Kessler?
I have none. I make a motion, we approve the rezoning request of James LaHood Sarkis, parcel number 19-06-14-400-020, vacant from community commercial to commercial general industrial restricted.
Second.
Motion by trustee Clifford, supported by treasurer Honnold. Any other questions, discussion? Give the clerk roll call, please, again.
Clifford.
Aye.
Arnold.
Aye.
Kendall.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye.
Gurley.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Letter H. Ordinance amendment, Article 6, residential low density, one family district, Section 601, special land uses. Mr. Cassidy.
This is a request that came from St. Michael's Cemetery, St. Augustine Church in Richmond. A few months back, they asked the township board to consider allowing cemeteries to be in a single-family residential district. They currently have property there and they wish to expand the cemetery. It was referred to the Planning Commission. When we reviewed it, we determined that cemeteries are allowed as a special land use in ag districts only here in the township, and in order to be allowed, we need an amendment to allow it into a single-family low-rise and any multiple family district. Planning Commission held a public hearing. There was no objections. The Planning Commission also reviewed it. They offered no objections and are recommending the document that you see in front of you to be approved tonight.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Make a motion that we approve the amendments to the proposed zoning amendment allowing cemeteries in residential low-density, residential medium districts as presented by the Planning Commission. It would be section 601, section 1802. Sorry.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Trustee Gurley. Any other questions?
None.
Deputy Clerk, roll call, please, again.
Kendall.
Aye.
Gurley.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Arnold.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And letter I. Ordinance amendment, Article 18, special land use approval requirements, Section 1839. Mr. Cassell, again.
Section 1839 deals with seasonal businesses. The Planning Commission reviewed this. One of the issues we've had over the several years is when a seasonal business comes through the township, every year they're required to go through a special land use approval process, public hearing, and all the other requirements, which is very costly, time consuming. So upon review, there's a couple of cleanup housekeeping issues made to the ordinance. The first one was to allow a seasonal attraction that comes back a second, third, fourth year, if they're making no changes, to just make an application to the clerk, as long as the clerk's office and the planner reviews it and has no objections, determined it's the same as last year, to allow them to continue. The second is there's a provision in the ordinance that stated that you could have 4 30-day periods in which to operate your attraction, and you had to go dormant for 15 days in between. That didn't make a lot of sense to myself or the Planning Commission, and we're recommending that we just clean that up to be allowed up to 180 days a year.
Thank you. And just so we're clear, this does not waive any inspections or anything like that? Things
Oh,
still
no,
have to go
just
through. all of that.
It requires them to go through the same procedure, just not to have to go through special land use approval.
Correct. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
I have none. I make a motion that we approve the ordinance amendment, Article 18, special land use approval requirements, and the changes made to a section 839.
A second.
Motion by trustee Clifford, supported by treasurer Honnold. Any other questions, discussion?
Want to change that motion to say 1839? I think you said 839. Just,
It's 1830.
it's 1839.
Didn't I say 1839?
No, I think you said 839.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1839.
No, 1839.
Any other questions? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Clifford,
Aye.
Connell,
Aye.
Trombley,
Aye.
Kendall,
Aye.
Gurley.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Number 11, public comment. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janet Hartway, Lenox Township resident. I have a couple questions about the First Amendment for Marino Scarefest. We talked about signage, and do we have a limit on signs here in our township? Signs, for size?
We have a sign ordinance in the township.
Okay. Now, Attorney Jopik, you talked about the status quo of the signage over the past number of years. Has Mr. Marino always complied with the signage sign size?
Well, if I may, Mr. Supervisor?
Sure, and I want to make this very clear, this is public comment, we will address these, but typically this is just for your comments. And if you do seek answers on any of this at any time during the business hours, we are available for any type of these questions.
Well, if I can't answer them now, then what's the use
I'm
of
just
having
telling you, this is what
public
this is
comment?
set for, it's just a public comment. It's not supposed to be for answer and question format. So I just want to make you aware of that. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, you're right in saying that, and that's why I turned to you if you
Yeah,
indulge.
I don't mind him answering it, but I just want to let you know that's how it works.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'll, in answer to the question, the Scarefest Marino property is covered by a court case in which the judge entered an order that governs the use of the property and things that can occur on the property. And as I mentioned, signage is not addressed in that consent order. So yes, there are township ordinances regarding signs and signage permitted for different types of uses. But this one particular piece of property has a consent judgment, essentially overlaying it and governing and overriding what the township zoning ordinance and ordinances say, and says he can do this, have this activity and use on the property regardless of township ordinances and what they may or may not say, to certain degrees in certain respects. They're all covered in that consent order. One of the things that's not addressed in there, like I said, is signage. So there's been that question of what needs to apply here and how are we going to address signage. When the terms of that consent order were negotiated during the heat of the court case, it's not an issue that was addressed. In the years that followed, the many years that followed, signage was put on the property. And when these other issues came up that needed to be addressed regarding camping and whatnot, the question of, well, why don't we address signage, at least have it documented that what you have there is either acceptable or not, and the board has said that it's acceptable. It'll agree to that added term to clarify in terms of the consent judgment how signage is going to be treated on that property. And the parties come to agreement of that, and it gets entered as part of the court order. Now, no other, well, I shouldn't say no other properties, but the vast majority of properties in the township are not governed by a consent judgment. So they're handled differently. During the negotiation process, as I mentioned, there was another use on the property that has some signage that seems to be exceeding the township ordinances, and that was used as an example of, well, why would we do anything less? And so that weighed into the negotiations as well. And that's how we landed where we landed. It will now become part of the consent order. That's part of the court order. Like I said, no other properties in the township, not many other properties in the township, have a judge's order over them and governing what happens on them. This particular property does, so it'll become part of that judge order in Macomb County Circuit Court.
So absolutely understand that the signage was addressed in the court order,
That's correct. That's
but
what
it
I
went
said.
along with the township.
Now it will be.
Oh, it will be, I mean, it's coming.
It was just approved tonight to be
Okay.
addressed in the judge's
So it does
order.
state that in the thing, in the,
It was stated in there are terms set out in the amendment to the court order that we will present to the court for entry.
okay. Thank you very much for explaining that, I appreciate it. I understood it when you said most of it the first time. Hearing the second time does help.
I just have to be careful when I talk about the various properties in the community. Some may have consent judgments like this or court orders, but most don't.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing him to speak, I appreciate
No
it.
problem, no problem. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Stevens, 9388 St. Clair Highway, and I'm the chairman of the St. Michael Cemetery Committee. On behalf of my fellow board, I want to thank the board for approving the text change to allow cemeteries as a special land use. Currently, we have about 20 years worth of grave sites left, and St. Michael's has been serving the community for 130 years as a final resting spot for our deceased members, and we thank you again for allowing this to continue much further into the future.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other public comment? No other public comment. Okay. Number 12, closed session. Letter A, closed session to discuss confidential and privileged attorney-client correspondence from the township attorney. Also, too, there will probably be action taken on this subject after we return. Mr. Joppy, anything else to add to that?
No, just that it's a roll call vote.
Yep, and I just need a motion to go to
Make a
closed session.
motion that we adjourn to closed session at 7:12 PM.
A second.
I have a motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Trustee Gurley, to go to closed session at 7:12. Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Kendall.
Aye.
Gurley.
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Connell.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye. Motion passes.
Closed session at 7:24.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Trustee Gurley. Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Kendall.
Aye.
Gurley.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye.
Clifford.
Aye.
Connell.
Aye.
Okay, open session at 7:25. Thank you.
I move to ratify and approve the agreement attached to the township attorney's correspondence to the township board dated April 23rd, 2018.
Thank you.
A second.
I have a motion by Trustee Clifford, supported by Trustee Gurley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Number 13, adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 7:25 and 30 seconds.
I second.
Motion by Clerk Kendall, supported by Trustee Clifford. Other question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?